Speaking Task 1. You will be asked a question about a familiar topic. You will then have 15 seconds to prepare your response, and 45 seconds to speak.
Would you rather live in a busy city or in the countryside? Provide specific evidence to support your opinion.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep. Speaking Task 2. You will read a short paragraph and then listen to a conversation between two people. You will have 50 seconds to read the paragraph. After, you will get a question about what you read and heard. You will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and then 60 seconds to give it. You have 50 seconds to read. Start reading after the beep. Now listen to the conversation between two people.
What on earth is the university thinking?
Huh? What do you mean?
Well, those buildings aren't just used for classes. That's where my evening study group usually meets.
Oh, of course, that's true. But you could go to the library instead.
Yeah, but the library only has a few rooms that people can use for group meetings, which is why classrooms have been so convenient. But now, if it's winter and cold, where can we go?
Right. In the middle of winter? Forget it. Or even if it's just kind of cold out.
It'd be pretty unpleasant.
Oh, but still, they obviously have to do something about the situation.
Oh, I agree. They have to do something, but they should find a solution that isn't so disruptive, to academics no less.
Such as...
Well, for one, if they replaced all those old windows. They're so drafty. They let the cold in, and if they insulated the buildings better. These are really old buildings. Charming, but
not at all energy efficient. Yeah, you're probably right.
there are some really basic improvements they could make that'd make a huge difference in the long term, that could solve the problem and still leave us somewhere to study.
The woman expresses her opinion about the plan described in the article. State her opinion and explain the reason she gives for holding the opinion.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep. Speaking Task 3. You will read a short paragraph about an academic topic, then listen to a lecture about it. You will have 50 seconds to read the paragraph. After, you will get a question about what you read and heard. You will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and then 60 seconds to give it. You have 50 seconds to read. Start reading after the beep. Now listen to the lecture.
So a good example of this is something that happened to me. When I was younger, I had an office job, and I worked there every day during the week, and I made a regular salary from that. But also, I worked as a waiter at a restaurant each weekend, so I made some money from doing that. Now, around this time, I decided I wanted to buy a house. So every time I got my regular paycheck from my job at the office, I'd save as much of the money from it as I could after I bought the basic stuff I needed. But with the money I made as a waiter, that was another story. Somehow, I guess that money seemed separate from the money I earned at my regular job. So I used the money I made at the restaurant to go out to dinner, to buy videos or CDs, things I didn't really need. But the thing is, it ended up taking me a really long time to save up all of the money I needed to buy the house. And looking back now, I realize I could have bought the house a lot sooner if only I'd saved more of the money I made working at the restaurant.
Using the examples from the professor's lecture, explain the concept of mental accounting.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep. You will listen to a lecture about an academic topic. After, you will get a question about what you heard. You will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and then 60 seconds to give it. Now listen to the lecture.
Okay, we generally assume that babies can feel only very basic emotions like happiness or anger. That is, that babies just react to things that happen directly to them. However, some new research is suggesting that babies may be able to feel concern for others, to have empathy for others. Now, empathy is a complex emotion. It involves a baby relating to someone else's emotions, not just reacting to things happening directly to them. let's talk about an experiment that may show that babies could be capable of feeling empathy. Okay, for the first part of the experiment, we've always known that babies start to cry when they hear other babies crying, right? One baby in a room starts crying and all the rest join in. We've always assumed that the other babies cried because they were reacting to the noise of the crying, that the noise itself was distressing. So, in the experiment, researchers played a tape recording, a tape of babies crying, to another baby. And sure enough, the baby started crying when he heard the sound of other babies crying. This was no surprise, of course, and the researchers assumed that the baby cried because of the noise. But the next part of the experiment was surprising. The researchers played the baby a tape of his own crying. Now, it was just as noisy, so the researchers expected him to cry. However, this time, the baby did not cry. He wasn't upset by the sound of his own crying. Why not? Well, maybe it wasn't the noise that had made him cry before when he heard other babies crying. In fact, maybe noise had nothing to do with it. It could be that the baby felt empathy for the other babies, and that was why he got upset when he heard them crying. The researchers concluded that it is indeed possible that babies feel empathy, concern for others.
Using the points from the lecture. Explain why researchers think that babies may feel empathy.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.